Okay. Sit yourself onto the lift and come into a good cross-legged position. Just have a little wriggle about. Make sure you're sitting evenly. Hold onto your knees. And then elevate the heart area upwards. Drawing your shoulders down away from your ears. Focus on long, slow, deep, deliberate inhalations and exhalations. Look at something that isn't moving so that your eyes are still in the sockets. And then bring your hands into Namaste. Bring the hands into Namaste. Lengthen your armpits away from your elbows. Squeeze the elbows in towards each other. And with an exhalation, allow your eyes to gently close. Soften your jaw, soften your tongue, soften your throat. Feel your lungs from the bottom to the top. Empty them from the top to the bottom. Just draw your attention into the physical breath, feeling the lungs expand with the in-breath and deflate with the out-breath. Aim to breathe evenly into both lungs and evenly out of both lungs, correcting it if you feel that there's favour on one side over the other. Draw your chin forwards with an exhalation, down to meet the chest, lift your chest up to meet your chin. Spend a moment to seek to generate a genuine, heartfelt sense of gratitude for something or someone or somewhere. onto that feeling of abundance in the heart area, and then release the backs of your hands down toward your knees, palms facing upwards. And then raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. So hold onto your knees, lift up into your chest, elevating the heart area upwards. Take a deep inhalation and then turn to the right side, drawing your abdomen across your ribs and your shoulders. Soften your jaw and your tongue and your throat. And then come back to the centre. Hold onto your knees, lift up into the chest, and then turn to the left. Dig the back hand firmly into the floor, drawing your abdomen across. And then come back to the centre. Just come off your lift, sit back on your heels and pressing the shins into the floor. Wriggle into your inner heels so that the inner heels sit on the outsides of the buttock bones. So that you really make good contact between the seat bones and the heels. Lift up into the chest and then come forwards into Adho Mukha Virasana. Pressing the palms into the floor, not being in a rush to get your head down onto the floor. Have the seat bones on the floor. Keep the head lifted, keep the chest extending forwards. Really activate the arms, press the palms into the floor. And then finally bring the forehead down. When you prepare it more consciously, the head always feels a little closer to the floor than you expect. But try and keep the seat bones down on the heels, really spreading the palms, just listening to the sound of the breath. Hitting back onto the heels, lengthening from the hips into the armpits, into the elbows. And then bring your hands underneath your shoulders, push yourself up. Just sitting back on your heels. Observe how you have opened up the energy around the shoulders and around the chest just from that simple extension. And this is how we open up our energy through our practice. We extend and then we feel how our energy changes. Come up onto your knees, have your hands as wide apart as your mat. Have your feet as wide apart as your mat. And then come up into dog down. Tighten your kneecaps, press the fronts of the knees through to the backs of the knees. Turn the fronts of your knees inwards, the backs of the thighs outwards. Lift the seat bones up towards the ceiling. Keep the heels of the hands pressing into the floor. Stretch the palms of the hands away from the heels of the hands. Press the finger knuckles and the fingertips into the floor. Press the fronts of the thighs through to the backs of the thighs. Maintain the breath, that full deep inhalation and exhalation that we had when we were in swastikasana. Observe your internal balance of action. Does it feel like both sides of the body are working evenly? Just spend some time inside the pose, finding that internal balance. Just focusing on long, slow, deep, deliberate breaths. Step yourself forwards, come up into a standing position. Get yourself a couple of blocks for your hands. And then bring your feet as wide apart as your mat. Just align your toes in front of you. And then bring your hands onto your hips. Bring the outer edge of your foot in line with the edge of the mat. So feel that the heel is touching the edge of the mat. Feel that the little toes are touching the edge of the mat. Tighten the kneecaps, lift up into the chest. Turn the fronts of the thighs inwards and hinge at the hips. Keep the head lifted, come forwards with a straight back. Just be on fingertips. Turn the fronts of the thighs inwards, broaden the backs of the thighs outwards. Lift the seat bones. Listen to the breath. Just everyone bend your knees and then try and extend into the spine. So when you bend your knees, it almost kind of cuts off the energy from the feet to the spine. And yet you can extend the spine, but it's a different extension. It's not as deep as when you straighten your legs. So straighten the legs again. And then find a deep extension into the spine. Tighten the kneecaps, but press the fronts of the knees through to the backs of the knees. Turn the fronts of the thighs inwards so that the backs of the thighs broaden outwards. Remember that corkscrew action. Fronts of the legs turning inwards, the backs of the legs turning outwards. And then pick up the seat bones, project the chin and the chest forwards a little more. Come down a little lower if you can, but stay high if you've got a bad back. And again, just remember that reaching the floor isn't important if you bend your knees. Because as soon as you bend your knees, everyone just bend your knees again, and you immediately lose that connection to the spine. It doesn't feel like you can extend in the same way. Straighten your legs and then deeply extend into the spine. Feel that connection. Push the thighs back, push the shins back so that your weight is in your heels and your hands underneath your shoulders. Project the chin forwards. If you can reach the floor, then do. But again, never at the expense of losing that extension in the spine, keeping the legs straight see all the time in classes that people bend their knees around their back to reach the floor, and they think they're doing the pose, and they're just actually more likely to hurt their back. So just get the legs even. Go into that internal balance of action and find balance of the legs. Get those legs straight so that you can really extend into the spine. Okay, bring your hands into your hips and then come up into a standing position. And then come up into Tadasana again, straighten the legs. Tighten the kneecaps, turn the fronts of the thighs inwards, the backs of the thighs outwards. And breathe. Tighten the kneecaps. So think about that corkscrew action of the legs. The fronts of the legs turn inwards, the backs of the legs naturally react by turning outwards, and it goes all the way down into the feet. Tuck the tailbone in, lift up into the chest. And then raise your arms out in front, interlock the fingers, turn the palms all the way out, and then raise your arms over your head. Baddha, Baddha. Listen to the sound of the inhalation, the sound of the exhalation. Keep the legs turning inwards, keep the tailbone tucking in. Draw the abdomen to the spine, draw the lower ribs to the spine. Lift the chest. So those actions should make you lift your toes to really action the legs. Just release. Swap the interlock of the fingers so the other index finger is on the top of the stack. And then keeping the legs straight. Feel how much you can extend into the spine. So when we're in a straight line, when we're trying to get the straight line of Tadasana, bent knees doesn't work. Straight legs works. Because as soon as if you try and keep the back straight and you bend your knees, you do lose, just bend your knees gently and just try and lengthen up into the spine. It's much more effort to extend into the spine. And then gently straighten the legs again. And then feel that connection into the spine. And then release, come back into Tadasana. So there are a few exceptions to straight legs in the standing poses. There's things like virabhadrasana too, of course. Some of the standing poses require one bent leg, one straight leg. But utkatasana, the chair pose, is one of the exceptions, but there's a real difference in the shape of the pose. So utkatasana is where we start off in virasana. You clamp your knees together and then you bend your knees consciously, but then the spine doesn't stay upright like this because you can't extend into that. You come forwards a little, tuck in the tailbone in, keeping the knees clamping together, and then extending into the spine. So that forward action of the spine isn't a rounding action like this. It's a forward action from the hips. But that's when you could. So that helps you to, that forward action helps you to continue the lift. So just come. I'm gonna have to move to get some better ceiling height. I'm not quite sure which way to go. This way. So come into virabhadrasana, and then clamp your knees together. And then bend your knees, and then keep reaching to the edge of the corner of the room, but the ceiling corner of the room. Bend your knees, keep reaching up, extending up towards the ceiling, keeping the knees clamping together, tucking the tailbone in, drawing the belly button to the spine, lifting the chest, extending into the arms. Find a low chair, and then straighten your legs and come back to the centre. So just take some deep inhalations, deep exhalations. So the chair pose, utkatasana, It really warms up the body, doesn't it? So just spend some time getting your breath back. So in that pose you keep the extension in the spine, but you come forwards in order to maintain that extension. So that's one of the rare standing poses where the knees bend, otherwise they straighten. So one more time, raise your arms up, clamp the knees together, and then bend the knees. Find a low chair. Keep reaching from the hips into the hands. Keep the front chest lifted. Feel it's an action of upwardness rather than downwardness. Keep clamping the knees together, breathing through the nose. Tuck the tailbone in, draw the belly button to the spine. And then straighten the legs. Come back into Tadasana. So maybe your body needs more oxygen. So maybe you need breaths just to bring the body back. Now there's a question as to whether you need oxygen because you were holding your breath or just because there's deeper exertion in the pose. So we never hold the breath. So with poses that require a fair degree of exertion, holding the breath is kind of normal, but that's not what we want. We want to keep the breath as soft and natural as you can. So one more time, raise your arms up and just feel the breath. Just feel that the breath is soft and deep. And clamp your knees together, keep them pressing together, and then come down. But reach up like there's your wrists are attached to ropes on the ceiling. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Reaching up, remember it's an upward action. Keep the knees clamping together. And then straighten the legs. Come back to the centre. Come back into Tadasana. Just let the breath settle. Bring your arms out nice and wide in toward your chest, and then step or jump your feet nice and wide. Then bring your hands onto your hips, turn your left toes in, your right leg and foot all the way out. And then what we do is to straighten the legs, to tighten the kneecaps. Make sure that the heel of the right foot lines up with the instep or the toes of the left foot. So straighten the legs, tighten them, and turn the legs outwards. And then bend your knees. Bend your knees. And there's an immediate weakness in the pose. If you bend your knees, then the action of lift that you get becomes an action of drop. Can you feel that? And then straighten your legs. And then feel that you can suck from the feet up into the hips and up into the spine. Just bend your knees. And everything becomes kind of soft and heavy. So I quite often see people in class doing this, bending the knees and just reaching all the way down to the floor, and then it's like this, and it's just everything is wrong about that pose because that's a heavy pose. Straighten your legs again, turn the fronts of the legs outwards, reach out, keep the legs straight. Keep lifting from the feet into the shins, into the knees, into the thighs, into the hips, into the spine. Find the shin. Don't worry about finding the foot. Reach up to the ceiling, look up. If there's any problems with your neck, then look forwards or down. Or if you feel dizzy, just look forwards or down. Turn the fronts of the legs, keep the legs straight. Feel how you suck energy from the feet into the legs, up into the hips, up into the spine, out into the arms, up into the neck. You lose all of that as soon as you bend your legs, bend your knees. And then the pose becomes wobbly and heavy. Come back to the centre. Swap the feet around, turn the right toes in, the left leg and foot all the way out. Just being mindful of that foot alignment. Straighten the legs, tighten the knees. And then come over to the other side, feeling that you're lifting from the feet into the shins, into the knees, into the thighs, into the hips, into the spine, looking up. Spreading the fingers, spreading the palm. Left from the feet all the way up into the head. Keeping those legs straight. Come back to the centre, bring your feet parallel and then step or jump your feet back together. Come back into Tadasana. Just breathe in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. And then bring your feet hip width apart, turn your toes in. If you've got a bad back and you're not going to come all the way down, then do half uttanasana. With your hands on the top of a table or the window ledge or the back of a chair. Otherwise, raise your arms up, hook the thumbs into the crease of the elbows, straighten your legs, keep those legs straight. Come forwards, hinging at the hips, and then hang down. Keeping the legs determinedly active, lifting from the shins into the knees, into the thighs, into the hip socket. Trying to lift the thigh bone up into the hip socket. Lift the kneecap up towards the thighs. Lift the shins up towards the knees. So again, if you bend your knees, just bend your knees, then you lose that extension in the spine. So it's a passive extension when the legs are straight, but extension nonetheless. You can actively extend the spine in this pose, but often we just let gravity do the work. Lift the shins out of the ankle socket. Lift the kneecaps away from the shins. Lift the thighs away from the kneecaps and all the way up into the hip socket. Letting the head hang down, just focusing on your breath. And then release your hands down to the floor. And then bring your hands into your hips, bend your knees on the way up, and then come up into Tadasana. Just be in Tadasana. Activating your arms and your legs. Feeling that you're lifting up out of the floor. From the feet up into the head. Just focusing on long, slow, deep, deliberate breaths. Bring your arms out nice and wide in towards the chest, and then step or jump, go as wide as you can. So slightly wider than trikonasana if you can. And then turn the left toes in, the right leg and foot all the way out. Again, lining that heel up with the instep. Now virabhadrasana 2 is where the back leg stays really straight. The more you straighten that leg, the more you maintain this extension into the spine, but the front knee bends. And so, but it's not creating a weakness in the link, because when you bend this knee, you press from the knee down into the heel, from the heel into the toes, from the knee up into the hip. So the knee becomes the corner, but it's not where it takes all the pressure. You suck from the heel up into the knee up into the hip at the same time. So it's that two-way extension. But this back leg has to stay straight. Bend that back leg, and then you lose that stability. Straighten that back leg, and then there's kind of innate stability within the pose. Stretch your arms out, look over the middle finger. Keep stamping from the heel up into the knee to the hip, the knee down into the heel into the toes. And then straighten the legs. Swap the feet around, turn the right toes in, the left leg and foot all the way out. Tighten that back knee, that right leg, and bend and descend. Find that right angle. Keep the back leg straight, tightened at the kneecap. Look over the middle finger of the right hand. Find a right angle. So it's a right angle of the bones, the femur bone and the shin bone. Okay, straighten the leg, come back to the centre, and then step or jump the feet back together. Just release the hands down to the floor. And just breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. Just come back into uttanasana, feet hip width apart, hook the thumbs into the crease of the elbows. And then with a straight back, come down or use the support for your back. And hang down, lift the legs. Really work on keeping them straight. Because the more that you work the legs, the more that you straighten the legs, the more you can passively or otherwise extend into the spine. Get the legs to work evenly. Feel that internal balance of action. Release your hands down to the floor. Just come into half uttanasana for a moment. Bring your hands onto your shins if you can't reach the floor with straight legs. And then walk your hands forwards, bend your knees if you need to, but otherwise keep your legs straight, have your hands shoulder width apart, step your feet hip width apart, and then come back into dog down. Again with straight legs, tighten the kneecaps, lift the thighs, bend your knees. You just feel how suddenly everything becomes quite heavy. Sometimes we bend the knees to pick up the seat bones, so that gives you access into there, but go back to straighten the legs. And then find that internal extension in the spine. Turn the fronts of the legs inwards, turn the backs of the thighs outwards. So straight legs in yoga is important because it gives us deeper extension. Okay, come down onto your knees and then just sit back on your heels for a moment. Just listening to the sound of the inhalation, the sound of the exhalation. And then come forwards again into Adho Mukha Virasana. So again, the knees are bent, of course, because you're sitting back on your heels. But we can still press the shins into the floor. We can lengthen from the shins into the toes,
and the shins into the hips, so that we don't disable the legs by bending them. We extend into the spine. Listen to the breath. And then just bring your arms to the sides of the body in the traditional child's pose. Just let the body flop into the floor. So this can feel really heavy on your head, which you either like or you don't. But then you can direct the weight away from your head by extending the shoulders into the hands, extending the arms away, keeping the arms straight. Again, if you bend your elbows, there's no extension. If you straighten your elbows, you can lengthen from the shoulders into the hands, and you can just distribute that weight away from your head. But applying some gentle pressure into the forehead is good for quietening the brain. Bring your hands underneath your shoulders,
and then push yourself up. Just sitting back on your heels. Again, just observe the energy that you've released through your practice so far. That good, positive, deep, extensive energy, lightness on the inside. Sit yourself into cross legs. If you need to sit on a lift in cross legs to extend the spine upwards, then do. Otherwise, if you can sit on the floor, if you can do half padmasana or just typical swastikasana and your knees are low, then you can just sit directly on the floor. If you sink in the spine when you sit on the floor, then sit on a lift and you'll be able to lift the chest. Because again, extension of the spine is what lets our energy flow. So the knees are bent in this position, and then that has its challenges in lifting into the spine. Hold onto your knees and roll onto the front edge of the seat bones. Just focus on the breath, filling the lungs from the bottom to the top. And then draw your chin forwards and down to make contact with the chest. Jalandhara bandha. Lift the chest up to make contact with the chin. Now you need to have contact here. If the chin doesn't meet the chest, then just get a folded belt or a pair of socks and you can just wedge it like that. So that creates the connection instead. So Jalandhara bandha. Lift Mula bandha by raising the anal sphincter upwards towards the diaphragm region. And then focus on the breath. Fill the lungs from the bottom to the top. Empty your lungs from the top to the bottom. Feel your lungs from the bottom to the top. And allow the energy of the breath to overflow into the arms and into the chest and into the legs. Feeling how the arms and the knees are connected in a perfect triangle. Maintaining Mula bandha lifting the anal sphincter up to the diaphragm region, up to the belly button, the diaphragm region. And Jalandhara Bandha, keeping the chin attached to the chest. They're energy locks. They help us maintain the energy that we glean from the breath. And then release Jalandhara Bandha, release Mula Bandha, and then raise your head. Just observe how your energy maybe is distributed, how it feels. A little more even, a little more level. And then with an exhalation, turn to the right side. Digging the back hand into the floor so that you stay on the front edge of the seat bones. Feel that you can maintain levelness at the seat bones. So rather than rolling onto the right seat bone, you bring the torso directly between the two hips. Come back to the centre. Hold on to your knees, lift up into the chest. And then turn to the left. Just drawing your abdomen across. Your ribs and your shoulders. Breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, listening to the breath. And then gently come back to the centre. Just come down onto your back and come into supta baddha konasana. Bring the feet into the seat bones, let the knees fall apart. If there's stiffness in your hips, then you can support the outsides of the thighs with blocks however you need them. Have the same on both sides if you use them. Have your hands on your lower ribs, just feel how your energy is quiet and down a little. So just use the straight line of the floor to realign the spine, to just ground your energy. Just letting the hips fall apart. Again, the knees are bent. But if you consciously press from the knees into the heels, from the knees into the hips, then the pose comes to life. So it feels like your energy flows from the feet up into the hips, up into the spine. So while this can be an entirely passive pose, we can activate it for really deep energy connection. Just stretch your arms up to the ceiling, interlock the fingers, turn the palms all the way out, and then lengthen your arms along the floor. If there's stiffness in your shoulders, you can put a folded blanket or a lift or a bolster or something underneath your hands. Otherwise, just use the floor. Feel that you can extend from the knees into the heels, the knees into the hips up into the armpits, into the elbows, into the wrists, into the palms, into the fingertips, into the fingernails. So the body becomes active and full of flowing energy. So you should never really feel tired at the end of a yoga class. You should feel like you've given yourself a good stretch. But energy is more commonly associated with the feeling after a yoga class. You feel better on the inside, you feel lighter, you feel cleaner on the inside. Just raise your arms, swap the interlock of the fingers, turn your palms all the way out, and then lengthen your arms along the floor. Just feel that cleanliness on the inside that comes from extension and focus. It mainly comes from focused extension. So rather than focus and extension as separate entities, they become one. Gently release your arms. Just rest your hands on your lower ribs. Just let the knees fall apart for a moment. Let the body rest into the floor. And then gently draw your knees together. Have your knees together and your feet apart for a moment. And then draw your knees in towards your chest. Have a little rock from side to side, from top to bottom. Just a gentle massage on the spine. And then roll yourself over onto your right side. Sit yourself up. And then get a folded blanket for underneath your head. If you've got a bolster handy, just have that handy. Just put yourself in a good straight line right down the centre of your mat, and then rest the bolster on top of your legs, because we worked quite hard in the legs, and that will help you to relax your legs. And then just move any equipment out of the way that's in the way, and then allow the body to release into the floor. Let the muscles of the arms and the legs release. Let go of the muscles of the arms and the legs. Release the muscles from the bones. Unhook the muscles of the arms and the legs away from the bones. Let the body become heavy on the floor. And then observe that feeling of irrepressible lightness that radiates from the bones into the muscles. Radiating from the bones and into the muscles and into the organs. A feeling of energetic lightness. Radiating into the organs, including the flesh and the skin. in-breath and your out-breath to distribute that feeling of energetic lightness down into the toes, into the fingertips, up into the top of the head. Basking in that feeling of energetic lightness. And then when you're ready, just gently wriggle your toes, wriggle your fingers. Bring yourself back into this pose of shavasana. And then just bend your knees, bring your knees in towards your chest, just moving the bolster off you if it was there. And then roll onto your right side, just stay down for a breath or two. And then straighten out the top leg, come back up into the seated position. Just cross legs with your hands in the masti. Final spinal lift. Draw your breath in through your nose and down into the abdomen. Be conscious of the energy that you have released through your practice this morning, that good, positive, healthy flow of clean energy that the extensions and the forward bends and the twists bring to the body and to the mind. And with an exhalation, draw your chin down to meet the chest. Just spend a moment to acknowledge the positive energy you've created around the heart area. And then send some of that positive energy out into the world. Gently release the backs of your hands down toward your knees, palms facing upwards. And then raise your head, allow your eyes to softly open and the focus to softly come back. Thank you very much. Thank you. So hopefully you feel as though you've really lifted your energy and given yourself good, positive energy to put into your day. So thank you very much for joining me.